guys, welcome to LoWdown. As we've already established in our little pre-show chat, this show's going to be Craig, because we are that fun this week. Panel's a little bit smaller, but we're still just as good. Oh man, guys, we love you, but we'll have a bet next week. So with us this week, we have Rensis, and we've got Chris with us. I'm going to set our listeners a little bit of a goal. By the end of tonight's show, guys, I want you to help Chris using the Twitter handle @Lammy332 to get to at least 500 followers. We can try it, and we can hope, but we'll do our best. John, just because you asked, thank you for listening. He says, give me a hell to the yeah, so yeah. There's a hell to a yeah. There you go. Let's just start the show off by going through a couple of news stories that we've had this week. The Great Muta says that he's going to attack The Rock. This is obviously in some kind of promotional values towards Wrestle One and Yahoo News, who reported it. So, hey, if you want to trust Yahoo News with your wrestling product, you go do that. We saw what happened with AOL, though. In other news, obviously, spoilers, if you haven't watched last night's Raw, it's your own fault now. You've been warned. I'm giving you 3, 2, 1. Okay, The Rock made a surprise return on Raw. Not many people expected that. Guys, what was your thoughts on The Rock showing up on Raw? Rensis?
The Rock, yeah, that one, apparently there were some people who were calling for that, but I wasn't one of them. So I was pretty shocked. I was very happy to see that, because it had been kind of a same old kind of a Raw, and that transformed everything. It became one of those, hey, I remember that Raw. And I'm not usually a Rock guy, so I was very happy with that one.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that was it was a bit of a surprise, really. Like you said, a lot of people were calling for it. I kind of went, why is The Rock on Raw? This makes no sense. More importantly, why is he in the ring with Rusev? Chris, what were your thoughts on The Rock showing up?
I kind of expected it, because I fully expected him to do something to promote the SmackDown 15th anniversary, which he didn't actually do, so fair play. But yeah, it was something that I saw coming. It was something that before the show I discussed with my friend John, and we were like, yeah, he's probably going to turn up. Something to look forward to. I also thought Edge and Christian were going to turn up, but they didn't. But yeah, it was good to see. I'm not sure what to say of their choice to get him involved with Rusev, of all people. Like, I feel as though maybe having him involved with someone like Ambrose and Rollins, or having him involved... I'd actually love to see them reference, if Reigns is out with injury or something, he could have walked out while Reigns is on the Titantron and made a joke about appearing via satellite running in the family or something like that.
Yeah, it would have been something different at least. It was unusual with Rusev, but we'll cover that later on. In slightly smaller news, I know we've got a couple of fans that listen to us, but they watch Ring of Honor. Michael Elgin has quit the company after the hassle he had getting back from Canada, and Ring of Honor apparently booking him for a show that he wasn't told about. So, you win some, you lose some, but if you're going to be bad with your business, you're going to lose superstars. So, yeah, just another reason why I dislike Ring of Honor. Bad businessmanship. So let's just get underway then for the rest of the show, guys, now that we've run past our news. Starting off with the first question we've had in, they've asked to be anonymous for this, but that's their decision. Guys, what do you think is going on with Harper and Rowan? Do you see this being like a big thing for them in the future, or are they just getting set for the mid-card on their own?
I hope Harper is ready to go singles. There's no reason for him to be stuck in a tag team. I like the tag team with Harper and Rowan. They can still tag. I don't see a reason why you can't do singles and tag as well. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Harper's going to do as a singles competitor. Get him on the mic. He's actually pretty good. He's actually good at everything. And they don't have very many young bigs in the company anymore. So I'm all for it. Let's go.
Yeah, they seem they seem fresh as well. That's as though they've been on the TV for so long. Like Harper seems so fresh. Each week he goes in, there's always a little something he's doing differently, and it's really nice to see. Chris, what's your thoughts? Do you think it's a good thing that both guys are going to go solo, maybe, or would you just rather one of them did?
I'm not entirely sure where I stand on this. I mean, I think it'd be good if they stayed together for the time being, and then maybe a little bit further down the line, Harper gets the single run. Because I feel like right now, if they split, Rowan would end up going back to NXT. I honestly don't feel like Rowan could compete in the singles competition and stay. People get behind Harper. People like Harper in the ring. With Rowan, people go, yeah, he's good, but he's not amazing. I feel like them splitting would be bad for him. So I would like to see them stick together for now. Obviously, go separately from Bray, which I think is what they're setting up for, which I'm quite happy to see.
I'm going to retort with, I like the idea of Rowan being single as well, but that's only because I believe they can do more with his character. Like, Harper's got a lot going for him in the ring, in that he's really good. But Rowan's kind of this guy that's sitting there during the promos that we've seen. Bray refers to him as just being a child when they found him. They can easily put that into a character, twist it around a bit, and mangle it to be whatever the hell they choose. Whereas Harper's been, it's very clear that he was a loyal follower, but they haven't given a backstory.
Well,
so it's really nice to see what they do with Rowan, I think.
Well, something that I saw which very much interested me was apparently something about, I'm not sure how serious this was taken, but someone commented about wanting to do a film on the background of the Wyatt family.
Yes, I reported this, and it's the Soska twins, the same two that did See No Evil. I am highly against this.
I am highly for it, purely because, like you've said, we don't see much of a backstory these days, and it takes a long time to build out that kind of a backstory on Raw or SmackDown. I feel like to create a film would be a great way to put a backstory out there, to get it set in stone, to then be able to reference it on Raw. Make the characters feel deeper and etc. I think it'd be helpful.
Rentis, what's your thoughts? The Soska twins make a Wyatt family film, or stay well away?
Not really familiar with them.
Okay, I mean, these guys, they make horror films, basically.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that yesterday, and it kind of dawned on me today when I was out and about. They have a very sort of horror feel without going too far with it. It's still kind of comic book character-esque, if you will. It's not all the way to horror, kind of like we've talked about the Joker comparison with Bray Wyatt, the Heath Ledger's Joker being an anarchist. And I think that kind of thing works. You don't need to take it too far. I don't think WWE wants them to be horror characters. I think they just want them to be creepy characters. And
I think it's very much what you and me were saying on Twitter earlier about
just a fine line there.
Yeah, just wanting to watch the world burn.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way to put it. I'm coming from a comic book film that kind of backs up exactly what you were saying.
Well, the thing with me is, I agree that a horror film may not be the best way to go. A psychological horror, on the other hand, could be interesting because that very much plays into the Wyatt characters anyway. To have it, I wouldn't say have it a rated 18, a slasher horror movie, but to have a 15 rated psychological thriller, that could be interesting.
No, I think see, I've drawn thoughts about this, and I've kind of gone, well, whatever they do with them in a film will need to be larger than what they're doing on WWE TV.
Tough to do that.
Yeah, it's tough to do that. And then the minute you put them back on WWE TV, they seem like smaller characters again. They'll seem more human because they've done Hollywood. However you want to look at it, because WWE studios, regardless, being a bad studio, it's still movies. People still recognize that. If you want to get put into a movie and then still be on TV, unless your character is very human in the first place, I don't see it being a good thing. And Chris, you just said something there about it being, a psychological thing. If they want to make it psychological, Bray Wyatt's the kind of guy that should be scaring children. Like, he should physically be scaring children, like going down to the ring, and they shouldn't be wanting to hold his hand or anything like that. They should be backing away from him. So why make it psychological 15? Let's make it psychological like 12A or rated teen, however you want to look at it. Just scare the crap out of the kids, because once you've done that, he's going to have a fan base that are afraid of him straight away.
Well, the thing I wanted to discuss was the actual vignettes themselves, because I feel as though the Wyatt family are they're a set of characters that benefit more from vignettes than most characters do, in the sense that, Bray Wyatt, whenever they do one of those, it's always creepy and it always suits the character, whereas, you get someone like John Cena to do one, you get someone like Daniel Bryan to do one, it's always, it's a video package, you get them to do one, and it's creepy as hell.
Okay, but could you cope with an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of that kind of video package?
In a higher quality where it was shot like a movie? Possibly.
I worry that if they were to do it, they would make the whole thing seem like a Blair Witch project, but with the Wyatt family involved.
I would like them to do it like a proper film, like, no handheld cameras. I want like proper HD cameras, like a proper film would.
Yeah, like a proper film.
Yeah, like to me, if they shot it as a proper film, like HD and everything, that would, the video quality alone, I'd be like, yeah, okay, this is better. But, we talk about the WWE studios doing bad movies. The Oculus, the movie that came out with WWE studios, wasn't actually bad per se. The plot was pretty good. The way they executed it was pretty bad. But it shows promise, and with the Wyatt family, I could see. I'm not sure how they do it, but it could be interesting.
I think it's definitely something to mull over and let people, get behind. Because obviously the Wyatt family, people do want to see them. There's a lot of people on Twitter that have wanted to hear about them. And, just tonight alone, we've had at least 5 or 6 questions come in specifically about the Wyatts. If that's what people want to hear about, WWE better pull their finger out and do something about it.
Well, the other thing...
I was going to say, how do you guys feel about them being off TV so much recently? Rensis, what's your thoughts?
Hate it. Anytime they're off TV, it's bad for WWE TV. Yeah, I get it. Maybe they're trying to save them, or maybe they didn't have anything, quote unquote, for them. That doesn't make any sense to me. These guys are incredible characters, and you're pushing the Shield. You're pushing them to the sky. I don't think that the Wyatts were that much behind the Shield in terms of popularity. So to have, imagine you had the Wyatts on TV every week, but the Shield guys were off TV. People would be going nuts. It doesn't make sense to me.
And I'm sure there's people out there that are, because there are, and it's the IWC, they will blame the matches with Cena as being Wyatt's downfall.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I don't think I would either. I just think repetitiveness and a struggle of where to put him on the card has probably been the hindrance.
Exactly, and I feel taking them off TV. And like I've said, these vignettes work better for the Wyatts than they do for any other characters that I've seen in a long time. So to me, it's not detrimental to the characters. The TV, yeah, possibly, okay, you've not seen them in a match, that sucks, it happens. But they're building the characters back up and making them highly relevant again, which to me is only a good thing. On this topic, I've just had someone come through and say, Damien Mizdow Wyatt, make it happen. Okay. We'll discuss that later.
Yeah, Damien Mizdow Wyatt, wow. Yeah, we'll definitely touch on that one later. So, you guys have opposing views on this. Rensis, you think it's a bad idea to keep them off TV. Chris, you think it's a good idea to give them some breathing room. Let's ask our followers and listeners. Guys, if you're listening, let us know what you think. Is it a good thing that the Wyatts are off TV, now that you've heard both sides of the story? Or is it, just another bad timing issue? Let us know, get in touch, and we'll give you guys a shout out and we'll read your answers on the show. Let's move on to our next question for the time being. Um, who is the worst and the best promo guy of all time? That question comes from PWE Podcast. Chris, I'll let you go first because I tend to jump to Renza straight away.
The best promo cutter of all time was that?
Yeah, the best promo cutter and the worst promo cutter.
In that case, the best for me would have to be Paul Heyman, because he's a guy that no matter if the crowd's cheering or booing, if they don't like... I mean, let's look at post-Mania Raw, for example, which confused the hell out of me, because Lesnar came out and everyone was booing Lesnar for ending the streak. By the time Heyman was done talking, they were cheering Lesnar. And I was like, wow, what's just happened? Paul Heyman single-handedly convinced an entire crowd to go from hating Lesnar to being on his side and to cheering for him, which I thought was bloody impressive. As for worst promo cutters, Carly, because he can hardly speak English. He can hardly speak.
Hey man, he could be cutting really good promos in India, and you wouldn't know. You'd be the ignorant one.
Hey, he can hardly speak any language, so
He could be doing great, man. You just have no idea.
I bet he's awful in his native language, too.
I think he's a heartthrob. They showed it for years.
The way he stumbled over his words.
Oh, God.
Wow.
I think we're going to have an international incident here.
And you're going to have to apologize to the Indian community next week, and we're going to send you to sensitivity training. Chris, be gone. Rensis, what's your thoughts then? Who's the best and the worst promo guy of all time?
Whoa! Best has got to be Ric Flair, man.
I was going to say, you can't just give you two choices.
Nobody talked people into arenas like Ric Flair, man. Nobody. There's been other great promo guys, and it's almost not fair to name just one because there have been so many phenomenal talkers in the business, but nobody talked people in like Ric Flair did.
And what about the worst then?
It's awfully hard to name a worst because generally speaking, if you're bad, they just don't let you talk. Among the people who get to talk a lot, I'm not a Miz guy, and I know that there are some Miz fans that are gonna not like that because they'll say that he's a lot better than this person or that person. He's better than Hornswoggle or Khali or any of a number of other people. But for a guy that gets the mic so much, I don't think he's deserved nearly as much mic time as he's been given.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad ones out there. Personally, my worst promo cutter of all time, John Laurinaitis. I just didn't want to hear him on a mic, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Didn't matter which era he was in, I did not want to hear him.
My name is John Laurinaitis.
I smoke 40 cigarettes a day.
I'm the Executive Vice President of Talent Relations and the Acting General Manager of Monday Night Raw.
Hunter, I'm sorry. Give me my job back and let me do it better.
Wow.
I just did not want to hear him on TV, that's all. As far as best goes, I'm going to oppose your Flair and give you Dusty Rhodes. I felt that every promo he gives comes from the heart.
Dusty Rhodes can talk? Jesus Christ.
I don't have any problem with Dusty. That's what I was saying. There are so many fantastic ones that it's really hard and almost unfair to pick one best because I absolutely love Dusty. I think Dusty's probably one of the more underrated performers, I think. Yeah, I hate to say of all time because that becomes cliche, but yes, of all time. I mean, Dusty was incredible at what he did.
To be fair, I can kind of see Dusty because, yeah, even though I'm not a big fan, even though I find it hard to understand sometimes what he's saying, yeah, I can definitely see where you're going with that.
Just a quick throwback to our last question. Mo Hate on Twitter says, WWE has dropped the ball with the Wyatts in recent weeks, but they've built some sizable anticipation for their return. I kind of agree with that on the same level that Chris said, but obviously, like, there's the batting hand there as well. And sticking with our current question,
I've had something come in about that. Apparently, the worst promo cutters, not exactly promo cutters, are Cole, JB Allen, Lawler.
yeah, well, Cole has cut some promos, and Lawler's great at promos when he puts his heart into it.
Yeah, when he does, like once a year.
But yeah, Dusty's a good one. I mean, we could go down the list. You know, Austin and Hogan and Rock. I mean, there's a near infinite number of really, really good promo cutters, and yeah, better than good, incredibly good. And certainly Dusty became a big star. It wasn't for his looks, right? It wasn't for his looks, wasn't for his great athletic ability. So he became a big star largely on the strength of his promo abilities.
Yeah.
We all know the only reason I said Paul Heyman is because I'm a Paul Heyman guy.
Moving on, John Russell 132 says, as much as it pains me to admit it, when Cena is pumped up, he's very good, but he's probably not the best, though. And Matt Naismith says, or Naismith Matt, says, Sid Vicious, British Bulldog, Bret Hart, and Kurt Angle were some of the worst promo cutters. I'm going to argue Kurt Angle. I kind of liked Kurt's stuff. Like, Kurt knew how to cut a promo. He just rarely used it.
Yeah, I'm not a Kurt promo guy.
Oh no, he had. Don't get me wrong. He had some awful promos, but he could back it up in the ring. I think that's what made him okay. Like, it saved him really. And when I say okay in the ring, he was great. Oh, and Weird Alvaro, thanks for getting in touch, says Rocky and Austin were possibly two of the best of all time. And worst was maybe... Oh, Rancis, I'm so sorry. Worst was maybe Heath Slater. Wow. Slater can cut a promo.
Three-man band, baby.
Heath Slater... The promos I liked with Heath Slater was the stuff he did with the Legends back in 2012. Purely because it wasn't to be taken too seriously. He didn't take it too seriously, but you could tell he enjoyed doing it. To me, that wasn't a bad promo. That was actually okay.
I think, some of his stuff, as Heath Slater, as far as it goes, his stuff with Nexus, he never got a chance. And then, sometimes I just think he's in such a bad place on the card, but other times I look at it and go, Heath Slater's great. He's got a job and he stays there.
Mm-hmm.
And big shout out to a good friend of mine, the Toby Michaels. And he says, shout out, you say? I'm sure I know some of the song title of that. And just as it goes by, the worst on all time on the microphone was Cali, and best currently is Ambrose. So thank you for getting in touch, Toby. I know, you've been getting on with things. Keep going with the training. I hope you do well. I guess he agrees with you, Chris. Cali is the worst. We're not going to go with the racial stereotypical line, though, because we're a PG show. Unlike Showdown, which you should check out on Thursday, guys. Gothic Playgirl says, I always loved Foley as Mankind. He was weird, funny, and definitely different, but it's hard to pick her favorite of all time.
Another person whose promos I very much enjoyed was Goldust.
Oh yeah, Goldust had some really good ones. I just think that was his character, though. I loved his character.
Some of it was his character, but it was the fact that he knew how to cut a promo with that character that surprised me. I think a lot of people would struggle to, like the pauses in the way that he breathes in and breathes out, and the way that he makes some of these noises, and a lot of guys wouldn't get their head around that and use it well.
Indeed. Oh, hopefully, guys, if you keep sending them in, we'll keep answering your questions. Keep those best and worsts coming in. Another question coming from Ansoniason. I hope I've said that right. If I haven't, I apologize. Please get in touch. Yell at me. We'll do. I'm not going to do anything actually. Just yell at me. He says, "What's your thoughts on Bray Wyatt? Possible another Bray Wyatt question, by the way. Thoughts on Bray Wyatt being paired up with the Ascension?" Rensis, do you want to take the ball and go with this?
Who being with the Ascension? Bray Wyatt?
Bray Wyatt. Yeah, it's been rumored from.
I don't see how that really fits the Ascension. If I'm not mistaken, they're really kind of supposed to be like an Egyptian sort of Egyptian royalty or something is what they're doing. I don't see how that fits with what Bray Wyatt is doing at all. If anything, I'd maybe put him with Paul Heyman. I might do that. I don't think I'd put him with Bray Wyatt. I don't see that.
Yeah, it seems an unusual pairing. Chris, what's your thoughts? Something you're going to look forward to, or is this just not being brought up on the show?
No, purely because, again, the gimmick doesn't fit. If this was the old Ascension, let's say back in, what was it, 2012, 2011, back when it was Kenneth Cameron and Conor O'Brien, and it was the old "We Are the Gateway to the Future" promo that they did on top. It was meant to be like on top of a skyscraper or something like that.
Yeah.
That was a promo that got me interested in that gimmick. The gimmick they've got at the moment, no. It doesn't even suit WWE TV, let alone. It doesn't interest me on TV. It never will. The old gimmick, if they had that, I'd say stick them possibly with Wyatt. But the way that they are now, no. No chance. Don't even bring them to the main roster.
Yeah, I think putting them with Bray would only highlight how good Bray is compared to the Ascension.
I think it'd feel like they're dragging Bray Wyatt down, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of feel if Bray gets put with anyone else now that isn't as good as Harper and Rowan were, then there's no point in having them there.
Well, it's been said plenty of times. Jonathan Russell on Twitter has been saying it to me. He's been saying it on Facebook. But, he's been saying, Damien Miz down, Wyatt. What we need to do is we need to have the Miz feud with Bray Wyatt, and we need to have Damien Sandow turn into a Wyatt.
Too comedic.
No, not if it's done properly and they give him a serious character.
I feel it could work, but I think it would be a struggle. I don't think fans would believe it anymore.
I think if it needs to be executed properly. That's the issue. Yeah, it needs to be executed properly is the only issue they'll have.
I think if they
I'd probably stay away from that because at this point, I'm not saying that he absolutely positively can never change, but Sandow right now, I think he's kind of typecast as a comedic character. I don't know. Maybe if it was I think he's kind of that's where his career is going at this point, I think.
But I think what they should have done is they should have, let's say the Miz fires Damien Sandow or something, and we have Bray Wyatt find him and say that he's cleansed his mind or whatever is going on. Have him be vicious, have him be rough like the Wyatts are. That, in my opinion, would work very well.
I think for me, Sandow, as great a wrestler as he might be, and as much as the crowd get behind him, like you look at the crowd from this week, they were all over Sandow. Like if you think that he's going to get that kind of reaction all the time, which he won't, then you're really mistaken.
Oh
But
no, I'm
with a
not
tweak of
saying.
his character, I was just saying, with a tweak of his character, in time they could make him serious. I always throw back to Triple H being the comedy jobber for a year.
Well, this is
Like
exactly.
he was.
This is
Yeah,
exactly what
this
I
is
was thinking.
exactly.
I mean, if you have Bray Wyatt walk out with Sandow, but you don't have the lights down, you don't have Sandow walking behind him, you have him walking at the side like he's his equal. You have Sandow, looking vicious, looking aggressive, looking angry, looking serious. And when he gets in the ring, let's say he beats down the Miz or something, the way that, we discussed this Stardust heel turn. Something like that, having be absolutely vicious for no justified reason whatsoever. That, to me, would make Sandow 100% serious, and it'd make him a decent character. Or at least a foundation to become a decent character.
You want to add anything to that, Rancis, or are we good?
No.
It's also worth pointing out, someone's just pointed out on Twitter, and that's John, has just pointed out, if Ziggler can go from a cheerleader to a badass, Sandow can go from a comedian to a badass.
Okay, first up, John, with all due respect, thank you for listening. Ziggler is not a badass.
Thank you, somebody. Thank you for saying that.
He was a heel.
No, he wasn't.
Let us move on to our newest segment. You can't IWC me. This is going to be a segment where we talk one of the favorites on the internet, and we tear them a new one. Rensis, do your thing. Tear Ziggler apart, please.
Oh, my goodness. Dolph Ziggler? No, absolutely not. You can't IWC me. I mean, seriously, dude. Like Craig said, all due respect, not trying to be disrespectful at all. Love you, glad that you're participating. And I know you don't mean that you think Dolph Ziggler is even as a heel, was an Austin type, but even as a second tier tough guy, no, absolutely not.
When we say badass, we don't mean in the sense that he's the rebel. We mean in the sense that he was a good character. A lot of people, even if you don't think so, a lot of people found Dolph Ziggler to be entertaining. Even when he was a heel towards the end, he was getting cheered quite a lot.
Not the same thing.
Okay. I'll step in here. I will say Dolph Ziggler is the guy that can be used as a human pinball. Dolph Ziggler is the guy that sells more sand to an Arab than anyone else in the world. Dolph Ziggler is the guy who can take a bump and make anyone look good. Dolph Ziggler, of things that Dolph Ziggler is, badass is not one. Dolph Ziggler, to me, is the equivalent of this generation's, let's say, you look back and you have, you got guys like Christian, who is above Ziggler. You have, in some ways, do you know what? I'm going to go as far as saying that Dolph Ziggler is D'Lo Brown. He can put on an entertaining match, he can sell moves, but I don't want to see him. Like, there is nothing special about Dolph Ziggler other than the fact he can sell. He lacks charisma, he's got super noodle hair, and he wears shiny pants. What's he got?
He lacks charisma. He lacks charisma. To be fair, I found the stuff he did with Jericho to be entertaining.
I'm not saying he's not. I wouldn't say he's not entertaining. I think he's a pretty entertaining character. But that to me is a completely different description than what was given before.
It's a very loose definition of the word badass. We don't mean literally badass. We mean like figuratively. He was a badass.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
To me, the term badass, I relate a wrestler to the word badass. In some ways, I think guys like Batista was a badass when he was a babyface. Like when he turned on Triple H, that was badass.
How about Dean Ambrose?
Yeah, Dean Ambrose at the minute, badass. CM Punk cutting a pipe bomb, badass. You know what? Even John Cena, when he was being like the doctor of thugonomics, when he was all about ruthless aggression, that was kind of badass. Dolph Ziggler is kind of like vanilla compared to the rest of the Neapolitan, you know?
Yeah,
And
I'd agree with that.
I was an ice cream.
I can actually agree, but to sum this all up and tie it back in, okay, if Triple H can go from a comedian to a good character, there's no reason Sandow can't do the same.
Oh no, I agree. There is no reason that he can't. There is no reason that Sandow
It would take a while, though, wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you? I think if you just put him with Bray Wyatt now, I think that's too quick. I don't think that he can change that quickly.
No, I just say give him a few months down the line, like give him till, I don't know, January, February-ish, then have it happen.
I'm thinking more like 2018.
No.
Yeah.
Jonathan, thank you for listening. He's wrote in again. He says, "Thanks, guys. I'm in tears now. Praise you don't rip Miz a new one." Okay. Miz going to be the next week.
Miz sucks.
He's awful.
Miz isn't that bad at what he does. He's just not main event material.
But yeah, and I don't want people to, I was in another life, I had a similar kind of a thing with Dolph Ziggler, and people always misunderstood and they thought that I didn't like Dolph. I think Dolph is very good. But to me, people who like Dolph think that he should be a top guy. They think he should be, if he's a face, he should be a top 2 or 3 baby face. If he's a heel, they think he can actually be a top heel. I think he's like a number 5 or 6 baby face. I think he's like a number 5 or 6 heel. That's really good. I mean, that's pretty high up the card. Okay, so it's not that I don't like him. It's just that I don't see him as a top guy. That's all.
Oh yeah, he's a great solid mid carder. That you can't deny that.
Well, some people would. You're a lot more reasonable than a lot of other Dolph Ziggler fans.
Yeah, but it's the same with The Miz. The Miz to me isn't a main eventer. He's a great mid carder, but not a main eventer.
Mm-hmm. Did we lose Craig? Or did we lose me?
I have no idea what's going on.
I'm right here. Don't worry. You just keep your little cotton socks to yourself.
Okay. Let's move on to another question before we accidentally destroy the idol you see.
I tell you what, before we move on then quickly, let's just big thank you to everyone that sent us a little bit of info on that nice new segment for you. Obviously, Jonathan, thank you for getting in touch. That was, very touching that you were the first to do so. John Tibbs, our, luckily neighborhood art guy, says, I like Ziggle Wiggle to a point, but I see why you say he's not main event material. He does help the show flowing, though. And he also says, there are too many Johns listening in. Well, I say, John, you invite your other Johns, your 50 friends, John, and their 50 friends, John, and we'll have enough listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Gothic Playgirl says, I've always felt Ziggler is the product of Rick Martel, Mr. Perfect, and Billy Gunn in a blender. Except Ziggler has less charisma somehow.
Yeah, charisma has become a real buzzword inside our community. That's one of those things that people really don't define when they use it. So I've tried to recently try to stay away from it because I may have a different view of it than others do.
That's cool. I agree. There's time and a place for the word. Chris, you want to move on? Do you have any questions sent to you?
Yeah, what do you guys think of Baron Corbin down in NXT? Because
I like him. I like him personally. I think it's a really it's interesting. He comes across as very dry, very straightforward. His character, his emotions don't really change. It works now. In time, he'll need to change that slightly, obviously. But I do like this idea that he comes across as dominant straight away.
I was going to say there were a lot of people that have started off like that. I mean, let's look at Batista. Let's look at Punk when he came in. You know, you look at some of the guys that have been big in the company have started off as kind of emotionless when they're in development.
40 minutes, by the way. 40 minutes that took for Chris to say Punk.
The only reason I said Punk is because I remembered the picture where he comes in. He looks like he's got eyeliner on, and he doesn't look impressed that he was there.
But yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of stuff going on with Corbin. People like him. People, they tend to get behind him. If Triple H really likes him, he's going to be huge in the next couple of years.
I think that with his finisher alone looks pretty damn impressive. He's one of those guys that I'm not sure how big he actually is, because on NXT people seem to look bigger than they actually are for some reason. So I'm interested. I'm not actually. Does anyone know how tall he actually is?
Who?
Baron Corbin. Nope. You there?
No.
No, I didn't think you were there.
Apparently he's 6'8". What?
Yeah, I don't believe that. 6'8", 30 years old. I don't believe any of this. But he's listed at 6'8", 275. That doesn't seem quite right to me.
Yeah, do you know what I like? One of the things I wanted to cover this week was this idea of realism in wrestling. And a lot of fans, they cry out for realism, and they cry out that we follow things. And they talk that we look back at the old days and we say, wow, the old days were great. They were the golden age, look at them. And that we keep to these traditions. If we keep to these traditions, guys like Big Show would still be booked at 7'4", 625 pounds. And Baron Corbin is now a key example of that. He's not 6'8".
No, I don't think so either.
Ooh, I mean, to me, Baron Corbin comes across as one of those guys. He could be a flash in the pan. I worry that when he gets to the main roster, he could end up like a Heidenreich. And by that, I mean he shows up, he beats people up, looks strong, and then leaves.
I certainly hope not. I actually hope he gets put with Heyman, if I'm completely honest.
That's your answer for everything, Chris.
It more or less is. But seriously though, I think that I've not heard him talk. I haven't heard him cut a promo yet. I'm interested to see what his promo abilities are like.
I don't want him to cut a promo. I don't want him to talk.
I actually would just... The only reason I said it is because I literally want to see if he's got the capability to talk.
Hulk Hogan was booked as 6'8" when he was getting started in WWE.
Yeah, and then you saw the match with The Rock, and they were basically eye to eye.
Yeah, and then he's not recently, but in the last few years, done a commercial with American football quarterback Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman was listed, I believe, at about 6'4", 6'5", and he was looking up at Troy Aikman.
Wow, really?
Yep.
I know you can get old and you shrink, but that's crazy.
That's about where we're gonna have to hang our hat, isn't it? he shrunk like 4 inches.
Wow.
That's considerable shrinkage.
That's like Teddy Long in the locker room with some Viagra kind of shrinkage.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll throw that one out there.
Yeah, you went there.
Tell you what. My question to you guys is, I've been thinking a little bit recently, talking about like guys being big, guys being small. We currently have quite a small guy holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, and we currently have a rather large brute of a man holding the WWE Championship. Someone asked me the other day, how can Seth effectively cash in when the champ isn't there? Can we agree can we agree on the show that he will not be cashing in on Brock Lesnar?
We can agree that he probably won't be holding the Money in the Bank briefcase until he drops it to Ambrose.
I don't think Ambrose wants the briefcase.
I don't think he wants it, but I think that the WWE would be better giving it to him.
No, I mean, like his character comes across as, he's had no interest in the briefcase other than the 2 weeks that he took it away just to mess with Rollins. I think his goal is to make Rollins insane. I don't think he has any other goal other than that at the moment.
That's true. We've always spoken about Bray Wyatt being, in the sense that The Undertaker is above the title. I could kind of see Ambrose trying to be above the title in some ways.
I don't know, Rensis, what do you think?
I was completing my research on Baron Corbin, and apparently he played offensive line at Northwest Missouri State. And at the NFL Draft Combine, they actually do all of your measurables, and he was legitimately measured 6'6.5", 300 pounds.
I found 6'6".
That 6'8" is not that far off. I mean, because in shoes, that 6'6.5" becomes, probably 6'7.5". So it's not that far off.
In theory, then, I'm 6'5", so he's only, an inch taller than me?
Is that 6'5" in shoes or barefoot?
Barefoot.
So, inch and a half?
Yeah. You and me, Corbin, one-on-one, let's go.
Oh god, you're going to get your ass kicked.
Please, he couldn't lift me up for that finisher. Corbin couldn't lift me for that finisher. Which brings me to the use of his awful finisher. I like it, but I can't see it working on big guys. He needs something else as well.
Yes, he's one of those guys that needs that for the smaller guys, and he needs something more powery for the big guys. And when I say powery, I mean something like, I was going to say a spear, but a spear is too cliche at this point.
Give him a one-handed sit-down power bomb.
As a former football player, that seems to work for those guys.
I'd love to give him something along the lines of an atomic drop.
An atomic drop. The atomic drop hasn't beaten anybody since 1969.
Yeah.
I think they only beat him because he was on drugs. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, could you not imagine him getting some sort of... I mean, Barrett's got the bullhammer elbow. I'm trying to think of something like a clothesline or something, because the guy... Nah.
Might not be too bad. Like JBL or Barry Windham or...
Yeah, I mean, he seems... He doesn't seem like a slow big guy as well, so that could work.
I could see them giving him Tess big boot.
Actually, a boot would probably, suit him a lot better. Like, even his image.
Speaking of big boot, dude, Paige, that super kick that Paige does just looks like it would really rearrange your face, man.
You mean the one she gave to Emma this week?
Dude, she unleashes some nasty kicks.
I would just like to point out to the IWC, there's been something going around that Paige is single. Yes, IWC, she's single. Your odds with her are still like less than 1 in a million. So,
Actually, there's like 15 million wrestling fans, so it's probably not even 1 in a million.
I did say less than 1 in a million. They're probably less than 1 in 6 billion, to be fair.
Ouch.
I've kind of never ever really had a crush on a diva, and I just never see the appeal with fancying a diva or a knockout. Like, yeah, they're attractive, but I've never been like, oh my god, she's amazing. Wow, look at her. Like, I don't get the fascination.
Don't say that. You'll upset my friend John.
Not even.
I've already been upset.
Not even Lana.
Not even Lana. She's got a good figure, but that's it.
I'm sorry, but on the topic of Lana, I just got to say the Rock's promos on Lana were fantastic.
Yeah, I think she's become overrated at this point. But
you look like a Soviet streetwalker.
And that is one of the reasons that The Rock and Rusev can't feud, because it would just be literally 2 months of Lana jokes back and forth.
She'd have to get a lot better, because he can't talk. I mean, he physically can speak. That's not what I'm saying, but he's not a promo guy.
Yeah.
She would have to get a lot better with her promos to go one-on-one with the great one, you know what I mean?
I didn't actually mind the stuff that was happening back and forth last night. I mean, even when Rusev was like, I'll crush you, I was like, this is actually an alright segment.
Oh, okay. PWE Podcast says something like a diamond cutter I could see working for Baron Corbin.
That one's in use right now.
Yeah. To be fair, though, that doesn't really matter. I can actually see that. I'd also like to see him retire Randy Orton with it.
Randy's only like 34.
I'd still like to see him retire Randy.
Wow. Okay. Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler are almost the same age.
Yep.
Yeah, except one of them's got charisma. Oh.
Nah.
I can be with Randy Orton. I think so.
The only thing I'll give Orton is he knows how to work a crowd.
I'd agree with that.
I don't feel like he has a whole lot of charisma, but he knows how to work a crowd, and that kind of makes up for it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's his real strength. He's so smooth, and he is so good at knowing exactly what to do at exactly the right moment in essentially every match that he's in. As long as he cares. I mean, there's times where he'll phone it in, but when he's engaged, there's not that many better at selling a match than Randy Orton.
Yeah, I mean, the one I won't forget is Sheamus versus Orton at the post-Mania Raw last year, whereby it was just terrible. But, like the match with Ambrose, for example, he understands ring psychology. Like, even when they messed up that one move, straight away the first thing he did was to get the heat away from Ambrose, was taunt the crowd. Fantastically done.
Mm-hmm.
I like Orton. Like I said on Twitter recently, if you guys haven't seen SmackDown from last week, just watch it for the one promo. Go and watch Kane and Orton tear apart John Cena and Ambrose. It's probably Orton's best promo of this year, in my opinion. Even Kane was actually quite good in that promo. So give that a listen and see what you can do. Yeah. Honestly, it's a really, really good piece. At times it can be unnerving to see Randy Orton get good again, because you kind of realize why he's been at the top for so long.
The other issue I've got is that him and Cena have been at the top so many times. I mean, the discussion that's going around at the moment is Hell in a Cell, because obviously the main event being revealed that it will be Dean versus Cena. It will be the winner of that match, so it will either be Ambrose or Cena versus Rollins in the main event. The idea is the loser will then go on to face Orton. The issue I've got with that is I don't want to see Cena versus Rollins just yet, but I don't want to see Cena versus Orton for the 5 millionth time, because they've both been at the top for that long. We've seen that match so many times.
I'm still okay with it. I don't mind them being in a good match together. Match.
But they aren't good anymore.
I don't know. I still can kind of cope with them.
I feel like the last few matches have been pretty bad. I remember the one for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. That was a decent match. But any that they've had since then, I'm like, no, I'm just going to turn off.
Rancis, what do you think? I mean, Randy Orton safe, promo-wise, or do you get bored of him?
I think everybody gets bored with him. Randy's, Randy's a decent promo guy. Randy gets a lot of flack for not being very good on the mic because he's monotone and he speaks very slowly. And I think he developed that as part of the Viper character. But it works better for him than to try to be. If he gets out of control, he gets goofy, right? If he starts talking too fast, he
goes on a tangent and it doesn't really sound right.
Make him vicious, give him the punch. Problem solved.
I'm not sure he thinks a whole lot faster than he speaks, and I don't mean that as an insult, but not everybody has, if you say something out of the way to The Rock, he's got an immediate comeback. Bobby Heenan was like that. You say something to Heenan, he has 10 comebacks immediately at hand. Randy, I'm not sure his engine is quite that fast in terms of responding and knowing what he's going to say next.
Yeah, he's the guy who calls you up an hour later and goes, "Yeah, well, you're fat."
Yeah, I know that's a great example. I always think that's the time that he forgot his line.
Yeah, but to me that's different. Forgetting your line is a different skill than remembering lines is not the same skill as being able to come up with stuff off the cuff. And if you're going to speak quickly, generally speaking, you're going to be speaking off the cuff. And some people have it. Even if you don't like it, some people have it. Jericho has it, people like it. Cena has it, not everybody likes it.
Triple H had it even when he made fun of Kofi Kingston's accent.
Wow. But with him, it's every once in a while. Every once in a good while, he'll have a good comeback. And I almost wonder if he sat and came up with it and made the other guy deliver the line so he could zing him. I don't know. I'm not sure that he has it naturally.
Shawn Michaels is another guy that comes up with things fast.
Yeah, he is. I'll tell you what, going back to a couple of points, John Tibbs says, I may get heat for this, but divas are a really bad female stereotype. It's partly the reason that few people take their segments seriously. Thoughts?
Agreed. 100% agreed.
I think the biggest problem that women have in wrestling is that generally they're either small, obviously there are small women that can't work and there are big women that can't work. So I'm just going to use people that can work. A small woman who can work a match has a place, but it's still not really believable. There's not really the element of danger. I don't get the sense that there's any. Nothing is going to happen. They're not really going to hurt each other. They're just not big enough to do it. If you had even a like I was saying, somebody said to me before, women's wrestling just isn't going to work because they're women, and I don't think it's that. I think if you had a woman who could talk like The Rock but look like AJ, it would still struggle to work. But if you had a woman who could talk like The Rock but was 6 foot and 205 pounds, she could get over just as big as The Rock did because it would look so physically imposing. It would be a larger-than-life image. And that's what they're missing.
I'm not going to lie. People that say female wrestling doesn't work because they're women, go look at the TNA knockouts, and I'm honestly going to... who was the girl that just came in?
Havoc.
Havoc is a perfect example of a female wrestler who I would not label as a diva because she is anything but a diva. She will go in, she will kick someone's ass, and it looks like she legitimately would kick your ass in the street anyway. We discussed the thing I have with the WWE is the style. The way that they are, it seems as if it's the way they're taught to wrestle, is that, you know, you bang their head a couple times off the mat if you want to get vicious, and that's their idea of viciousness. You go look at TNA where they're like, I mean, they're proper, it looks like you're actually punching the living crap out of them each other. It looks fantastic. It also helps with the fact that when the Divas hit each other on WWE, you know, if let's say you hit someone's head off the mat, you don't hear the sound of it. That's part of the problem. It affects the believability of it because you don't hear the impact. There is no impact whatsoever. It's just like, oh no, she's hitting her head off the floor. Oh no, she's hitting her. Oh no. And it's like, well, I can understand why people don't care about that style. And I think when you talk about people that are small and can wrestle, to me, AJ Lee can wrestle, but not. They need to change the style, and they need to give them a chance to do it seriously and to make it look more believable and vicious.
So, do you think, obviously at the moment they've got AJ, they've got Paige, they've got Emma, you know, Charlotte in NXT. Is there anyone really that stands out enough to make the Divas division matter again?
Charlotte and Paige. I mean, we've said it. You said it earlier. Paige is super kick. Like it can rearrange someone's face. That's a bit of a thing right there that looks pretty believable. You've then got Charlotte, who's down in NXT. So looking at some of the stuff she's done, it's not necessarily the same style where it's all soft and it's all, oh no, I'm being hurt. It actually looks like she's trying to rip someone's, you know, trying to break somebody into a couple of the matches, which interests me to see what will happen when she comes to the main roster.
Francis, what about you, man? Do you think the Divas are done for? Do you think they're struggling to find new material?
The best thing that's happened for them in a while is Total Divas. Total Divas is a big deal for women's wrestling. I don't really love it. I'm not the target audience for it. But
no, that's Skeletor.
Can I say, where's Skeletor when you need him?
But yeah, I like. How do I put this without getting myself into trouble here? I don't want to. The Divas division is not done, and Total Divas is really important for them because of the drama and emotion involved. I think that should be. I think I should get the point across without getting myself in trouble.
I agree. There's a lot there. Total Divas kind of helps this product a little bit. I'm not fond of the idea that Total Divas has been brought into WWE. Obviously, since they've instated this rule that girls on Total Divas can't hold the title, that really limits which divas can hold the belt. I think it's a very unusual rule, but obviously because of the film timing and stuff like that, it's how it works.
Well, I don't see how it affects anything. I mean, they've just now registered the fact that Daniel Bryan was the champion, and I don't see why the show would have to be alive for it to be seen as good. I mean, you know, yeah, it's great if it's up to date, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, the stuff with Daniel Bryan that's happening right now on, you guys don't watch it, but they're just now getting into Daniel Bryan's second surgery, like the idea of him needing a second surgery.
All right. I'll tell you what.
It's still good. It's still good drama.
We've got one more point on this, and then what we'll do is we will move on to the next question from our next fan. Gothic Playgirl says that divas were booked because they look good in a push-up bra. There are some in NXT who can actually wrestle and will make a change. I agree with that. And then our next question comes from PWE Podcast. Who should Triple H have his retirement match against?
He's never going to retire.
If Triple H has a retirement match, it should be against someone like Batista, Orton, someone that he's brought up and someone that he's been with along the way.
I think they need to be more recent and more current than Batista or Orton.
Well, you can always go back to the evolution thing, and then you've always got Reigns or Rollins that could fill in. I was gonna say Cena, but I don't want to see Cena do that. No, NXT. Baron Corbin, for example, is a guy that could come up and potentially could do it.
I would say it probably needs to be a legend unless he goes until it's more. When you have a younger guy do it, it's usually for somebody that everybody already knows is really retired. For somebody that's still either active or semi-active, they'll use a legend for that. Like Flair was retired by Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels retired by The Undertaker.
My initial idea was going to be to have Triple H retired by The Undertaker, but because The Undertaker is now possibly out of action permanently, and because we've already seen that match 3 times, no.
Yeah.
I think the only other current legends that would be able to do it, in my opinion, would be, I know you don't count them as legends, but would be Cena, Orton. In some ways, you could have Lesnar do it. Lesnar would at least be believable to do it.
Yeah, I like Lesnar. That's the first one that came to my mind.
Yeah, I mean, at least he looks good doing it. I know we've seen Lesnar Triple H before, but say Lesnar refuses to defend his title belt, why not make it a match? Sell some networks,
It only costs $9.99 a month.
$9.99, and you're gonna see him retire.
Now, I don't know why, but I have a very dodgy feeling Austin. Very, very dodgy feeling. I don't know why, but following the company's logic at the moment, that would happen. I hope it doesn't. Knowing the company, it could.
I believe John Russell 132 is trying to get his own back, and he says Steph should retire Triple H.
Now that could be interesting. Imagine if she took over the company from Vince, and Vince has just died. Imagine if in the story Stephanie took over from Vince, and then you've got, she wants Triple H to go and focus on the corporate side and not the rings, not getting in the ring. So you then what they were looking
at last year though, when he first brought Curtis Axel in.
Potentially, but what you then have is you have her say, if you lose this match, you are done.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It runs the issue though that Triple H should be booked as a babyface in it. Me personally, I see Triple H as being the guy that would, he would put over a younger guy on the way in.
I don't know. I don't know why, but I actually, considering the work he does with NXT, I can see him trying to put somebody new over. And
I completely understand the logic that a legend would do it, because that has been the trend at the moment. But Triple H seems like a bit of a traditionalist, and it seems like he would want to put someone over on his way out.
Yeah,
on you go, Chris. I was just going to say I would love to see that. See, realistically, Baron Corbin, like you said, I would even go as far as saying Steen or Devitt.
I was going to say Bray Wyatt.
Oh, Wyatt's possible too. That would make sense.
Have Bray Wyatt tear down the machine.
Man, you keep going back to this. I think that was just a phrase.
I don't keep going. That's the first time I've ever mentioned it.
No, you mentioned it on prior shows. You've mentioned it before.
Okay, I may have mentioned it once or twice. I don't mention it frequently. But to me, that would be a great feud and storyline to see.
Yeah, it would be nice to see. It would be good to actually see him. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say show character, because Triple H has been really good at showing different sides of his character. In fact, he's been around the block. He's shown all different sides. But
yeah,
it would be like that final step, Triple H defending the company while Bray Wyatt is there trying to take it down.
To me, that could be built up as the top feud as well, which would be absolutely fantastic to see. I can already imagine some of the video packages for that feud, and that could actually be phenomenal.
Yeah, Rancis, your conversation died off, and we decided in the end that Well, he's going to put over a new guy on his way out.
Yeah, considering... Can you hear us, Francis?
Rensis, can you hear us, or are you gone? He may be busy at the moment.
Ladies and
Basically,
gentlemen.
basically, though, guys, on Twitter, let us know who you think would be Triple H's retirement match, and how do you think it would go around. And you know, I can't believe I've been so blind and not said it yet. If we don't get Sting Undertaker, Sting retiring Triple H, there's your legend.
I was going to say this when we were discussing legends, but then I thought with the work he's done with NXT, it's more likely to be a new guy. Or a guy that, you know, he wants to leave, he wants to make a pillar of the company.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely want someone to try and replace his spot in the company, so to say. We'll move on to another question then that we've received from a fan. We've got, what do you think of how Jinder Mahal was used? And that comes from Weird Alvera.
Well, what do I think of how Jinder Mahal was used? Jinder Mahal to me was nothing special. He didn't stand out in the ring, on the mic, anything else. I don't have a problem with how he was used. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Francis, you there? Hello? You there? Hello?
Hello. Oh, the joys of technical issues.
I was going to say, you can hear me, yes. There is no problem here.
There is no problem now. I can hear you.
Good. Right. It's always nice when we get viewers that are, you know, getting in touch with us, asking us questions. So if you guys want to have any more questions answered, then please feel free to go ahead and ask. And PWE Podcast, I completely agree. Triple H facing his retirement match could be Kevin Steen. Cement Steen as a bit of, you know, the heel, but I don't want to say a heel badass. I don't want to say a heel legend. He could make a name for himself, by doing that. Sorry, my words are everywhere tonight.
Other names that I see, I don't know why. I'm going to say the other. Actually, no, I'm not going to say the other name. We can forget about that because that might actually turn out terrible.
Who were you going to say?
Take a guess.
Were you going to say Zayn, my friend?
Yes, but I've decided no, because that would end terribly. It would be a good match, but the video packages leading up would be bad. I think that if you have a guy like... I'm going to stick with Bray Wyatt. I want to see Bray Wyatt retire Triple H.
Rentis, you back with us, man?
I'm just going to take it as a no until he talks.
Yeah, it's comfortable, man. So again, thank you, Weird Alvero, for being in touch. Chris, I believe you had a question sent to you saying, with Roman Reigns breaking character a little on the satellite feeds, do you see him changing character at all upon his return?
Can I say, yeah, what do you think of that?
What do I think of it? I don't think, personally, that he was breaking character. I feel he was talking as his character would when he's not in the ring. However, I think when he returns, we'll see a change of character. I think when he returns, we will see, you know, a little more personal side of him. Like, as we've always said, the best characters come from those who have a over-the-top version of themselves, so to say. And I think it's about time that Roman Reigns found that within himself. Because if not, you know, he may not reach that top guy status that everyone talks about. Chris, what's your thought on that?
I completely agree. I mean, you know, you've got this sense that Roman Reigns, I'm going to keep going back to it, the backstage stuff that we saw him do with Vicky Guerrero, you know, that was more what I would like to see with Roman Reigns. And I feel like, you know, you saw him smile a little bit when he did some of those that video message backstage. That was better to see than him being all serious and being, yeah, believe that.
My favourite line from Roman Reigns definitely has to be, "Take your shoes off in my ring, baby doll."
The only thing that I have to say was he was saying a lot.
I
Like,
think that was his greenness showing through.
yeah, when he did that package and he was saying I was like, dude, are you going to say one more time? Because seriously, I feel like The Rock should be out there in the ring right now, cutting a promo on you, telling you to shove it.
I really
That's another thing I would love to see is reference to him being related to The Rock.
yeah, I would like to say, obviously it'd be nice to see a little bit of mic action between the two, only and only if Reigns can pull his finger out his ass and make it sound good.
But even if it's just them two in the ring, and then you've got The Rock talking about them being the Samoan brothers or whatever it is, call them the Samoan brothers, call them the Samoan cousins, call them whatever you like. Have Reigns grin and talk about it. That would be, even if he's only feeding off the energy that The Rock feeds in, it could be good to see, and it could be beneficial for Reigns.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of animosity. A lot of people are wanting to see some Rock. Sadly, I feel it's going to be one of those moments that's not going to live up to the hype, though. And I think that's on the part of Reigns. Hopefully, though, when it does happen, they're going to make things appear a little bit better. Rensis, what's your thoughts? Roman Reigns and The Rock. Do you want to see an interaction with them?
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, man, we can hear you.
Hey, the technical issues.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, you've missed out to catch up. Bray Wyatt's going to retire Triple H.
Sure he is.
Of course he is. Of course he is. I mean, if not, it's going to be someone.
And is Craig there?
Yeah. Fantastic.
I can't hear him.
Oh, God. Leave and rejoin. Okay, this is a problem, ladies and gentlemen, viewers at home. This is an issue that we do tend to have from time to time, whereby Google Plus does not quite seem to work for various reasons of which we do not know. We will be working on it. We will hopefully sort something out. We will hopefully have a more stable platform for the podcast soon.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go.
Right, now that we're all back, that was like Parallel World meets Flash Speed. It was horrible.
Yep, that was terrible.
Ooh, I'll tell you what. Although we're talking about Rock and Roman Reigns there, Chris, Gothic Playgirl says Reigns doesn't have a character. He stays stony-faced because he hasn't worked out what he's doing yet. Needs more experience.
I disagree. I completely disagree. You've got guys like Bray Wyatt who don't have a whole ton of experience behind them, but still has an amazing character that he has figured out 110%. 186% even.
Yeah, I think, experience does sometimes reference, it does reference what you actually do in the ring, and it does reference your character. But obviously, if it's a character thing, you want to look at guys like John Cena, within their first 3 years, had changed their character.
Well, let's
There's
look
no
at,
reason that Roman Reigns can't do it,
just like to say, let's look at Bray Wyatt, who only started wrestling 5 years ago. When did Reigns start? Roman Reigns started wrestling, let me just find out, ladies and gentlemen, Wikipedia is an amazing thing.
It can't be that long ago.
He only started wrestling 1 year after Bray Wyatt. So you say it's an experience thing. I disagree. It's not experience. It's simply a matter of he hasn't figured out the character, and it's a shame to see it because they want him to be the top guy, but they can't have him the top guy when he has nothing. He's literally a blank canvas almost. He's a blank canvas with a tiny little bit of black in the corners.
Do you think then, in time, that Roman Reigns can actually live up to the hype, or do you think that he's still going to be just second fiddle?
I think Roman Reigns is a guy that needs to be sat down by people in the roster, in the locker room, and this is their responsibility as well. And they need to really sit him down and just say, I want him to be the top guy, but they can't have him the top guy when he has nothing.
Hey, Brian, thanks for making an entrance.
He's a blank canvas with a tiny little bit of black in the corners. Do you have headphones, mate?
Do you,
I actually have to find that.
Do you think then,
Find the headphones.
in time, that Roman Reigns can actually live up to the hype? Right, give me a second. Let us know when you've found your headphones, Joe. Okay.
There we go, that's all been sorted. So,
big love Brian, by the way, who is from the Nick and Brian show. If you guys have any questions that you want to be asking, go ahead and send them to his Twitter, my Twitter, Rence's Twitter, or Chris's Twitter. Alternatively, you can post them in the comments section on YouTube, where I know quite a few of you are listening. And what we'll do is we'll interpret the ones on YouTube into next week's show. So it's a plus, really. You get them to listen, you get to see occasionally beautiful faces, and then you get to have your questions answered on the next show. So it's all good. Brian, we all good to go again?
I think he may still be looking for his headphones.
He's gone on a headphone hunt.
no, that's okay. As I was saying, though, what was I saying?
We were discussing, I believe, using a younger performer to retire Triple H.
No, we weren't discussing that. I was saying it's the responsibility of the locker room at this point. You've got guys like Cena and people that have been there for a while. You even got Bray Wyatt, who's come up with a strong character, to sit down with Reigns and really discuss where he's going to go, what kind of character he's going to have, and how he's going to get it across to the audience. And he needs to be sat down with people from the Performance Center, with people higher up, with people on the roster, with people that aren't even on the roster anymore, like his cousin Rock. Like, he can go and talk to guys like Hulk Hogan, he can go and talk to the guys that are around and still with the company. He really needs to go and talk and get these ideas and jot them down and really decide himself where he's going to go.
That's some very straightforward words, my friend. I would like to question that, though, with some knowledge from Rensis. Do you think it's the locker room's responsibility to come up with gimmicks? Not gimmicks, sorry, but to be able to hone your character? Or do you believe you should be left as an individual to do it yourself?
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that the same thing? Isn't that what you're saying, Chris? Is that those two are the same?
What do you mean?
Are you saying that your peers should decide what your character looks like, or the individual performer?
The individual performer, but he should be getting advice from the others.
Yeah, I agree with both of those.
He should not be afraid to go up to people and say, you've been in the company for so many years. Let's say Cena's been there for 10 years now?
Mm-hmm.
He should be going up to Cena and saying, you've been here for 10 years. How do you get this across to the audience? He should be going up to Orton and saying, you've changed your character multiple times. How do you do that? How do you make your character interesting each time? He should be going up to guys like Chris Jericho when Chris Jericho was there and saying, you've got your catchphrase. How did you come up with your catchphrases? How do you get the audience to buy onto these catchphrases? Stuff like that. It should be. He should not be afraid to go up to the other people that have the experience and use their knowledge. People say it's a lack of experience. I say it's a lack of using the experience that's around you.
Yep. Yeah, I actually can't argue
About 10
against
years.
that. Again, we welcome in from the Nick and Brian show, Brian Chichak. Brian with a Y, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Love these technical difficulties over the past 2 days. Everything is becoming more difficult. I'm having a tough time.
It's not an episode of LoWdown without tech difficulties, so it's all good.
Yep.
Tell you what, moving slightly on from the topic of Roman Reigns, PWE Podcast says, On the topic of Roman Reigns, who should his next feud be with when he returns? Brian, do you want to go first? Who would you put him with?
Wow, put me on the spot here. I think Roman Reigns, if he's going to keep his sort of Shield gimmick with the rest of it. I know Cesaro isn't doing anything right now. Those two could work a great match. I just haven't built a story around them yet. But I'd let Roman Reigns and Cesaro go for 20 minutes, and I think that would be a heck of a match.
Could be a hell of a brawl.
Have we just lost Craig?
No, I can hear him. I gotta be honest, I love the idea of putting him with Cesaro. Cesaro's a guy who physically matches up reasonably well with Roman Reigns. He's a very, very seasoned performer, so he can carry Roman, which we all know that Roman still needs a little bit of carrying.
Yeah.
And he's not currently in a major program. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I'd like to see that. I think that's a good program.
Yeah. I just like you said, like how I said, there's not really a story that we could come up with that would make sense right now at the time. I don't know if it has to be the title. I know somebody has to turn heel, and I'm guessing if it's how it is set up now, if Cesaro's a heel and Roman is a babyface, then the crowd is going to do WWE's work for them and obviously make Roman Reigns the heel, because from what I hear, it seems like the crowd is not behind Roman Reigns like the figureheads want them to be.
Yeah, and there's a pretty easy way to do it. They've already teased it once. Just have Cesaro join the Authority, and there you got it. I mean, it's books itself almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, this completely depends on when Reigns returns, whether he returns as a face or a heel, what gimmick he's got. Ideally, I would simply have Bo Dallas in the ring, talk about all the injured superstars and all they have to do is Bo leave. I would then have Roman Reigns come out and just spear the crap out of Bo Dallas to the pop. Because let's face it, that would be quite a pop. After that, it's very difficult to say where you should take a guy like Roman Reigns, because like I said, it depends when he comes back.
Yeah.
If you're going to bring him back before the Royal Rumble, I would say stick him with I don't know, I'd say stick him with Orton. Actually, I wouldn't even say stick him with Orton. I'd say stick him with Rollins. Rollins or Ambrose. You know, you have one feud with Cena, you have the other feud with Reigns. But if you have him come back at the Rumble, again, it completely depends on the plans that are going, because if you want to have him beat Lesnar, which he will not be ready for if he comes back at the Rumble, he would need to go through Cena, which means he's got a feud with Cena at some point. You know, as a rite of passage kind of thing.
This sounds terrible to say, but I'm not the biggest Roman Reigns fan now that it was bad timing now that Seth Rollins, well, he was in the main event whenever he won the Money in the Bank, but now Dean Ambrose is getting that main event spotlight, and you know damn well that Roman Reigns can't hold a torch to Dean Ambrose on the mic.
Hold on, I just like to say I've been told to say Ziggler for the shits and giggles. Just yeah, just for that. But the issue that you've got is Reigns. Yeah, sure. Reigns isn't a guy that is he has the image, and I think the crowd, he does get reactions from the crowd, and I'm not one of those people that likes the stereotypical, he's a face kind of character. I've never been one of those people. I don't like Cena for that exact reason, but I don't mind Reigns.
Yeah.
Even though he is seeing a 2.0, I don't mind him as much because I'm not sick of him yet.
Do you know
I gotta
what?
tell you, I don't think you're alone, Brian, in saying that you're not fully on board with Reigns anymore at this point. I think I think he's approaching seen enough territory, and
Yeah.
that's not a good thing because they're not finished pushing him. They want him to be the heir apparent to Cena. So if we're
Yeah,
getting tired of him already,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to plateau too soon, which is exactly what you're saying, Rancis. I think the issue now comes with, like you said, Brian, the badly timed injury. His push on his return is all going to be dependent on how well the fans receive him. If they try force feed him like the same way they did with Batista coming back, saying he will be a babyface, the fans will turn on him. They will get rid of him so quickly it'll be ridiculous.
But the easy way to do that is to not have Batista come back as like, not have Reigns come back like Batista did, where it's towards the end of the Rumble, they want one guy in it. You have Reigns come back in the number 2 spot in the way that Jericho did. You have a guy like Rollins or someone in the ring talking about how last year Roman Reigns beat the record or whatever, but Roman Reigns isn't here now. Send out whoever it is, I'll curb stomp him, I'll throw him over the top rope, I will show them why I am Mr. Money in the Bank. And then you have Roman Reigns' music hit, and the crowd.
I was gonna say, is it possible that WWE really wanted Batista to come back as a heel all along? Because
No.
they know how to book a babyface return. You look at what they did last night with The Rock. Can you imagine if they had said, to The Rock, hey, listen, we want you to kick off Monday Night Raw and Hunter's gonna introduce you. He'd say, go jump off a bridge. Okay, you put a guy who's getting legitimate heel heat in the ring, cutting a promo, in this case Rusev and Lana, and the babyface's music hits, and instant hero. I mean, this is not hard.
The problem here, it wasn't that they wanted him to be a heel all along. The problem they've got is they made a last-minute plan because it got revealed that he was going to be a secret entrant in the Rumble, and they basically crapped themselves. That is what I honestly believe happened. I believe that they were meant to have him come back to a babyface pop, have the nice surprise of someone coming back. People have been asking for Batista to come back for 4 years, even though a lot of people were like, Batista and everything. And now, at the time, like a year ago, everyone was like, oh, where's Batista? When's Batista coming back? Is Batista ever going to come back to the company? Oh, I really want to see Batista. And the company had a chance to deliver on that, but because of the advertising screw up that happened where they accidentally advertised it was accidentally advertised and it shouldn't have been. I honestly believe they just tried to make the best of a bad situation, and yeah.
Yeah, and Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just think that if you want to bring back a guy into WWE and he was in a heel faction before, you don't have that heel who's still playing a heel introduce him upon return. Am I wrong about that or what?
No, do you know what? I completely agree.
Yeah.
But
I think. On you go, Chris. Let's hear the argument.
I was going to say, yeah, I can get behind that, but it was the fact that he also then straight away disputed with Orton about the title and everything, going, I'm going after the title, which did kind of put him over as the babyface. The heel issue came from the fact that they wanted Daniel Bryan to win the Royal Rumble, which is something that the WWE did not expect. And maybe, just maybe, if Batista was a surprise entrant, the reaction he got at the end would have been better. But from the Royal Rumble onwards, it was just downhill, and that's the only reason they turned him heel was because he was already getting the heat.
Yeah. Speaking from a person who went to the Royal Rumble, that was crazy. It was how we were chanting. We started the yes chants when the number 30 entrant was coming out because we all thought it would be Daniel Bryan, and then Rey Mysterio comes out and Pittsburgh turns Rey Mysterio heel, and he was never the same again. And the final four, the other two are escaping me. I think it might have been, I don't remember.
Batista was one of them.
Yeah.
Batista reigned. Wasn't Punk?
And it wasn't Sheamus, I don't think. I think him and
No, Sheamus and Punk, I think, were much earlier.
Yeah, it was Batista, Reigns, and then somebody else that we were booing. But if you watch the match, after we realized, I'm referring to the crowd, after we realized that Bryan wasn't going to be in it, and we didn't want Batista to win it, and we didn't want the other guy to win it, we got behind Reigns, and that was like his first time that he actually got a nice crowd reaction. Then he goes and gets tossed over, and then
And
Yeah,
Batista.
I don't know that Rey Mysterio's ever been booed in his life.
Yeah, that
The
was.
final four, by the way, were Punk, Sheamus, Reigns, and Batista.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, because another thing, Kane was sitting on the barricade for a good 20 minutes before his cue. So yeah, the final three was uh, Sheamus, Batista, and Reigns, and then we got behind Sheamus, or I mean, we got behind Reigns. He got eliminated in the final two. We just booed all the way until they literally got off the air, and
To,
that's.
to, to be fair, it did sound like Reigns was getting cheered towards the end of that, purely because
Yeah,
they
you're
didn't
right.
want
He was because
purely because they didn't want Batista.
yeah, it was really the best of the worst. That's exactly it. We were cheering for Reigns because we didn't want Batista or Sheamus to win it. And
And to be
man, can
fair,
you imagine what would have happened had Reigns won that? He would have been pushed so quick and then shot straight back down.
yeah,
Like, I can't even imagine what would have happened had he gone to WrestleMania that year.
you're probably right. Because if he's already plateaued now,
I mean, can you imagine that it came down to Reigns versus Orton versus Bryan? I mean, the only person that's still going
I think quite likely, if that's what happened, you'd have you'd have a reversal, and we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier. You'd have a reversal of the Wyatts and the Shield and how they came out of WrestleMania. Coming out of WrestleMania, the Shield got pushed, to the moon, and the Wyatts kind of took a step back a bit. If you had pushed Reigns into a main event spot there, then probably you end up having to cool the Shield, and you maybe Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper are getting the push right now.
God damn, that should have happened. Thanks for ruining it, Rancis.
I
So
disagree
thanks.
because the program with Bray Wyatt and Cena still would have carried on to Extreme Rules anyway.
what's up with that? What's up with Bray Wyatt too? He's kind of lost all of his steam as well. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Mm.
Yep. We've discussed it on the show.
I
I,
think it's just going to be a rating Wyatt heavy show.
Okay.
I think.
What happened to Chris?
You mean to Craig?
wait, what?
I thought you were saying something.
No, I was not.
Okay, but yeah, we did cover a little bit of the Bray Wyatt stuff earlier in the show, and rather than me rehashing what we went over, what are your thoughts on Bray Wyatt even missing Monday Night Raws at this point, which I don't really get.
I believe they don't have anything for him at this time, and this Jericho feud should have worked, but I believe because their first match at Battleground was so bad, there was no point of even putting more stock into the feud. Sure, they had a cage match on Raw to start off the new season. I put in air quotes. But you see Jericho getting this spot off the cage, and I don't know. Bray Wyatt he's a different character. He's golden on the mic, and
My concern
I don't know.
is that when he
That's
comes
it.
back,
I don't really know what else to say.
my
I
only
don't get it either. And coming out of WrestleMania, there seemed to be this new energy. Everybody had graduated, right? The Shield graduated, Bray Wyatt graduated, Cesaro graduated, Daniel Bryan was on top of the world, and it really looked like we were gonna have a whole new class of main eventers.
Yeah.
And other than the Shield guys, and even with the Shield guys, Roman now gets hurt. He's on the shelf. All of those acts that appear to be just taking off coming out of WrestleMania, they're all pretty much on the decline at this point, which I don't think anyone could have predicted coming out of Mania.
The only one that's still on the climb is Ambrose, really, because Ambrose has just sort of shot up in popularity. But yeah, I mean, I can very much agree that coming out of Mania, I thought Cesaro this time would be feuding with Lesnar by this time of the year. I thought that by now we would have seen Bray Wyatt versus, I don't know, anyone really. Bray Wyatt versus Orton, for example, would have been a great feud to see. I think we would have seen the Shield breaking up. We would have seen, Roman Reigns feuding with Triple H right now. I mean,
I don't think you're alone in saying that. I think a lot of people expected that to the point where it, like I was saying before, it would really have been a shock if someone from the future came back to you coming out, at the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania and came to you and said, Cesaro's going to be at the bottom of the card. Daniel Bryan is going to be, his career is going to be on life support. Roman Reigns is going to be out injured. Bray Wyatt is going to be off Raw most of the time. People would have thought you were crazy.
Yep.
So what happens next year then? Do you think these big stars come back and they get the same appeal they had this time around?
I don't think we've got Craig anymore.
Yes, we do. You just can't hear him.
Okay, Craig, can you jump out and jump back in?
Yeah.
Chris, do we have any more? Do we have any more questions?
Nope. The question, what you were saying though about, do we expect? Was it you that was just saying, do we expect to see the same push, or was that Craig?
The same what?
Do we expect to see like the same thing happen this year with the guys, coming out as like, possible main eventers and stuff? Do you expect them to get the same treatment this year?
Hard to say. I don't even know who's going to be on the card at WrestleMania at this point. I thought I knew.
I agree with what you were alluding to, Rensis, about how the new stars were they were set to go for this WWE year, and I liked it. I appreciated it because it's been 10 years of John Cena, and they've never put that much stock into one guy, unless you could say Hulk Hogan, because he carried them, before modern TV and cable TV took off.
Or Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah, well, no, I mean now I'm talking about the TV era, but yeah, you're right with Bruno too. All the other eras, the Attitude Era, you had Austin, Rock, DX,
Taker,
all that. Ruthless Aggression Era, you had Triple H, HBK,
Edge and Christian,
Eddie Guerrero, the Rabid Wolverine, Kurt Angle,
Rey Mysterio.
And now we're at the Universe Era. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
You have John Cena, and you can. It's what the main problem is right now. He needs a safety net. That's how he has 16. That's how he has 15 title reigns. If you look at it, they just give him the strap whenever their main guys go down.
Well, here's the issue I've got is that by now I expected Bad News Barrett to be doing something big. I expected Roman Reigns to be doing something big. I expected Cesaro and Wyatt to be doing something big. And I'm hoping that next year what's going to happen is we're going to come out of Mania and we're going to have those guys get pushed majorly. We're going to see people, I'm hoping that they'll be given the same treatment, and hopefully circumstances will be better. Hopefully they'll write something in for Cesaro and keep him relevant. Hopefully they'll keep something in for Bray Wyatt and not put him with someone like Chris Jericho and keep him relevant. I can already see them doing that with Ambrose and Rollins, so I'm not worried about that. The other thing I'm worried about is the guys that are inevitably going to come up from NXT, guys like Sami Zayn, Tyler Breeze, Adrian Neville. That set of guys that are going to come up, and they're not going to have spots on the card.
I would argue I think they're going to have their own spot on the card, but I think it's going to be an NXT style match. They'll probably have NXT guys feud with each other for a while on the main roster.
That's actually a good point. I do like that suggestion actually, but the issue I've got with that is that you've then got a roster that's building and building and building, and who do you release from that roster? Because
Um,
the issue they've got is they can't have a roster that's too big, otherwise they have to do a brand split again, which they don't want to do. Or you've got to let guys go, or send them back down to NXT. And I don't see many people wanting to go back down to NXT. And then it becomes a matter of, well, who do you release from the contract?
I could see Los Matadores going.
Yep.
In all honesty, if they don't get anywhere with Ziggler, I could see Ziggler walking before he goes.
I could see Kurt Axel being removed.
Yeah.
Just because of his heritage, but
Okay, maybe back down to NXT.
yeah.
I could definitely see the NXT thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about. I think Ryback will still be in the mid card.
I think Ryback's probably going to get some kind of mini push when he gets back.
Yeah,
Guys like Adam Rose, I could see him going back down. At the minute, it seems irrelevant.
I could see Adam Rose just getting released.
Yeah, I know they need jobbers and things. Like, if you don't have a jobber, then who's there to make your mid-card guys look good?
Dallas.
No, Bo Dallas is going to be mid-card. He's going to be comfortable mid-card eventually.
No, I think that Vince will get bored and Bo Dallas will either go down or just straight up get released from the company. But to be fair, the fact that he's in WWE 2K15 bodes well for him. And I do say Bo as well for him. So,
Sorry, Brian, what were you going to say there?
I have sort of like a question about Adrian Neville, because I'm kind of worried that WWE, because his Red Arrow finisher, and his match are great as well. He's sort of, I see an RVD in him when he works him.
Yeah, I see him being very RVD. I see exactly where you're coming from.
I don't want him to get called up to the main roster and be put into a tag team, and he does the Red Arrow for the only move in the match.
No,
I don't want him to be called up and just be a one move match, and then his career's basically finished after that.
You know who that is? That's Justin Gabriel.
Yes.
Yeah. But to be fair to actually Gabriel is, as we've seen, Gabriel looks like the guy who's been in a bunny costume a couple of times. Some of his moves in the bunny costume have made me wonder why the hell he is not being used a little bit better.
Exactly, that's what I'm afraid with Neville. That'd be a travesty.
To me, you actually.
I will slap you, Chris. Realistically, where do you see Neville getting to on the card, though? I mean, I honestly don't see him getting any higher than IC title.
No, and that's fine with me, as long as he puts on 5-star matches. I mean, what's wrong with the occasional? They don't do this a lot anymore, but it doesn't make any sense. A ladder match on Raw for the IC title, or some sort of a ladder match on a pay-per-view for an IC title.
Well,
I'm fine with that. With the RVD career path, that Adrian Neville could go down.
Yeah, I don't even think he's gonna get to the RVD level. To be honest with you, to me, he looks like Justin Gabriel. He looks like who's the guy that was with Kofi Kingston? Evan Bourne.
Yeah.
That's what his career looks like to me. I don't see RVD. I think RVD had the advantage of being an ECW, which was a truly independent brand. I know that there is some separation with NXT. In fact, there's considerable separation from the main WWE roster, but it's still not independent. They're not competing with the main roster.
Well, here's the thing. The thing to me is Neville is a guy that when you put him in a tag match and you saw him, he had the speed, and the speed made up for the lack of charisma. He could give him a mouthpiece. Don't give a damn who it is at this point, and give him a mouthpiece, which is something they need to work on in NXT's training knows. And just have him as the guy who goes in the ring, flies around the ring at 5,000 miles an hour, smacking the living hell out of people, and hitting them with a red arrow. There is nothing wrong with that. Give him a ladder match, have him fly across the ring.
I don't think there's much room on the card for that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to argue that point and say you can't just give him a mouthpiece. You need to be charismatic to be constantly on television. And like Brian said, that's where the whole RVD Evan Bourne thing comes in. Like those guys, they can be good. They can, they've got good spots in them. But that doesn't mean that they're going to have constant good matches. I mean, realistically, who could you even see Neville feuding with and continuously having good matches?
Neville, Zayn.
Yeah, but then I don't think.
I'd watch NXT.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about it is if you keep pushing an indie style of performer on your developmental program, eventually you want them to come up to the main roster, right? They've got to learn to work WWE style. And if you keep having him work an indie style, he's going to end up back in the indies.
I can agree with that, to be completely honest, yeah. I can agree with that.
So what we've concluded is that Neville's finisher, to give an example, is too great to be...
No, I don't think it's too great, if I can jump in. I don't think it's that his finisher is too great. I think that the rest of what he does isn't truly interesting, and the reason why that finisher stands out as much as it is, other than it being incredibly eye-popping and a feat of athleticism that is just about unmatched in entertainment, the rest of his game doesn't match the red arrow. And that's the problem. It's not the problem that the finisher's too great.
I voiced a couple of weeks ago as well, and this week on Twitter, his voice will let him down. I mean, being from the UK, even I struggle understanding his accent sometimes. Like, it's really thick.
Yeah, I have to admit, I can't listen to him talk.
Really? He's that bad?
I mean, you can listen to guys from Newcastle, you can hear them talk, but you can usually make out what they say. His all just sounds like one kind of murmur of words.
I've never heard him talk, that's why I was just asking.
Yeah, when the feud that's going on at the moment, I rely solely on Sami Zayn on the microphone. I see. It's literally a case of I see Adrian Neville pick up the microphone and I hit the mute button on my TV, like, nope.
PWE podcast says that Neville versus Rollins would be a good feud.
Yes.
That would be nuts.
I think it'd be nuts, but the main thing with that is it's an indie guy feud.
Yep.
That doesn't matter though. To me, I don't really think that matters. As long as they don't use that style, as long as they make it look like a WWE match, because you then have two guys who have history, they have a storyline because they're both NXT champions. Who was the better NXT champion? You then have that feud going on. Yeah, I could see that working.
That's a kickoff show one-off match. It's not in my opinion, that's not a feud. That's one match. That's
a mid-card feud to me.
If you want to put over the NXT title, have an NXT takeover, be like, if the NXT title is vacated, say Neville vacates it, Seth Rollins comes down to NXT and says like, blah blah blah, I won it first or something, and then
no, but to me that Rollins taking a step backwards.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So Rollins goes from feuding. Yeah,
like you said, Rance, it's just a one-off thing. Just let him go.
Yeah.
I'd say what before we run out of time, Rensis, do you want to give everyone your unpopular opinion of this week?
I think I've pretty much already covered all those. I've gotten myself in trouble with women's wrestling.
He's already imploded the IWC.
Yeah, with women's wrestling and with Dolph Ziggler, I think I've gotten myself into enough trouble for the week. So.
And the Miz, don't forget the Miz.
Yeah, Miz has fewer fans, but yeah, I got myself in a little bit of a. I think I probably drew some heat with my my Miz commentary too.
Yeah, Chris, do you want to give yours?
Unpopular opinion of the week.
Yeah.
Get Zayn on the main damn roster.
At this point, I'm saying that's verging on popular. Quite a lot of people want it. I'm not sure you understand the word unpopular, my friend.
Okay, in that case, my unpopular opinion of the week would be to have someone injure Cena and see how long the company can last.
Oh boy.
Oh, that's nailing unpopular. Well done. Brian, do you want to give one?
Oh, my unpopular opinion of the week. I think, yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna
Let's go for it.
you UKers out here. When Bad News Barrett comes back, he will never, at least not in the 6 months or so since his return, he'll never reach the level that he was before he was injured.
Yeah, I think it'll be unpopular, but I can't argue.
Because he
Yeah,
was on fire.
All
I
they have to do is have no. All they have to do is have something happen along the lines of Miz talking about how he's the best because he's a Hollywood star. He's the best IC title that WWE's ever seen, and then all you hear is, "I'm afraid I've got some bad news."
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about on my show when BNB was doing his thing. The I'm afraid I've got some bad news was only getting over in the smarky cities like the Brooklyns and Chicago's and some like another one or something. But
When's he due back?
I'm not sure. But
December.
when he was on a roll, those cities with the crowds that cheer John Cena, even they were getting behind Bad News Barrett, and now I don't think he won't be able to reach that right away.
Let me put it to you this way: if he came back, let's say 10th of November next month, they're in England. How big of a pop would he get if he walks in and says, "I'm afraid I've got some bad news"?
I'm telling you, if he comes back in London, he is only going to be doing vocal work. He will not be wrestling.
Yeah, but even so, the pop he would get would put him. Yeah.
That'd be ridiculous. But what
Yeah.
about when he goes into like Salt Lake City, Utah? They don't.
Or right here in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. They're just gonna cheer because Wade Barrett's back. They're not gonna. They
Okay,
will eventually, but they won't do it right away.
and that's why it's an unpopular opinion against people talking. Congratulations. My unpopular opinion of the week. I don't see Cesaro being main event talent. I just don't see it anymore.
I hate
They
you.
had time. They had place. Cesaro is not going to be a main event talent anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, our podcast will be burnt down and wiped off the internet.
They need good, strong wrestlers to be sitting in the mid-card to main event level, like that little bridge. And Cesaro is the perfect example of a guy that can get people over while still looking damn good. He said it himself in an interview recently. My own flaw is that I'm that good.
Same
I agree with
as
you on that.
unpopular opinion of the week, same as Ziggler.
And my unpopular opinion of the week, and it's not really an opinion, is we're about to wrap this thing up. And before we get too close to the end of the show, I want to take the time to thank Brian Chichak from @the NB Show on Twitter for being here on the show tonight on short notice. You are the man.
Yes, thank you very much.
And since we couldn't get the links right and everything, I'll try to come back on Tuesday, and maybe Nick can join us too.
Fantastic.
You can come back Tuesday. You can come back Thursday for Showdown if you want as well. It just means that we don't have to watch the PG rating, and you can say whatever and whenever you want.
Okay. Now
So-
this Thursday.
Whatever you're good with, man.
Okay.
And we would love to have you back anytime.
Thank
So,
you.
ladies
guys
and
for having me.
gentlemen,
So just to round up, guys, we have been the Levels of Wrestling. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to give us, please feel free to leave them in the comments on YouTube, or get in touch on Twitter with either myself, Rensis, or Chris. And I'm sure Brian would love to take a couple of your comments as well. You know, if you want to say thanks to him, go ahead. That'd be nice. Just please say thanks.
Thanks.
You guys, well done. And of course, we will see you on Thursday for Showdown, where this week we are taking your topics, and the top two will be voted for by the fans, and then we will discuss them as controversially as we can.
Aye.
So please join us then. But for now, Good night.
Peace out.